More breaking news from the Mountain West. Conference realignment is always in the news, and we're back here on the Big Mountain to break it down for you. Hey, it's JY again here. I know I'm without Steve for all of you mountain dwellers, but I have to do a breaking news episode. I just got home from work to record this to get it out to you guys as soon as possible. I want to go over a few things. I was now able to read the lawsuit. I want to go through that. I also want to tell you what our friend of the show, and as Steve would say, one of our Big Mountain Mount Rushmore guests, has to say about these lawsuits, that being Mr. David McKenzie. I also want to talk about the 7 members. Yes, official today. We have 7 members in the Mountain West. I also want to talk about additions. I've talked about that before. I would be remiss to not go over that. And I want to go over a couple tweets. I'll throw them up on the screen, some of them just for fun. But let's start with the lawsuit. So this lawsuit, which was filed on September 24th, just 2 days ago, this action by the PAC challenges the anti-competitive and unlawful nature of the poaching penalties that the Mountain West imposed on the PAC in the scheduling agreement. The penalty saddles the PAC with these exorbitant and punitive monetary fees. The PAC had very little leverage to reject this naked restraint on competition, and the PAC is asking that the court declare the penalties invalid and unenforceable. They state that not only did the Mountain West charge over $14 million for just 6 games here in 2024, but they also forced the PAC to accept an unprecedented poaching penalty provision that was unrelated to scheduling football games that would limit the PAC's ability to compete with the Mountain West in future years. They call this poaching penalties draconian and unlawful, and they're a horizontal restraint on competition. They state that the school's exit fees that are provided through the bylaws here provide more than sufficient compensation to the Mountain West. They also state the poaching penalties violate state and federal trust laws, California's unfair competition law, and just the basic principles of contract law. So let's go through the timeline. I had to kind of piece this together through their 24 pages here. But I want to talk about at least what they have set up. They also attached 2 letters to this, one being from Commissioner Navarez to the PAC, telling them they're owing the poaching penalties, and then the response from Commissioner Gould back to Navarez on the same day that this lawsuit was issued or filed. So let's go through the timeline. August. As we knew, the parties were unable to agree on an extension of the scheduling agreement. This was mainly due to financial demands of the Mountain West. This coming from the lawsuit. They state that Commissioner Navarez with the Mountain West was, quote, saying, "We have to move on. I think we have to move on." The parties neither party made a proposal to the other in definitive terms. So they were talking, they never even really got to definitive transaction terms for a proposed settlement, or not settlement, but an proposed 25 scheduling agreement. On September 12th, after accepting the applications from 4 Mountain West members, the PAC admitted those 4 schools into the PAC beginning in 2026-2027. That same day, the Mountain West demanded the PAC pay the $43 million in poaching penalties per the scheduling agreement. Again, that was a letter from the Commissioner Navarez. I'm going to go into a little bit of that in detail here in a minute. On September 23rd, the PAC admitted a 5th member, Utah State, as we all heard, and the Mountain West signaled that it intends to collect the exit fees from the departing members. As I said, on September 24th, the same day this was filed, PAC Commissioner Gould responded to Commissioner Navarez in a letter saying that she disagreed with the position of the Mountain West Conference because the poaching penalties were unlawful and unenforceable. So what are the counts that the PAC is putting forth here? They have several. Number one, it's a violation of the Sherman Act. In short, these penalties are a restraint of trade. Number two, they're a violation of California's Cartwright Act. Again, these penalties restrict trade. Number three, a violation of California's unfair competition law. Again, these are unfair business practices. Basically, they restrict trade. Number four, finally something a little different, they're unenforceable penalties. These are excessive and unreasonable liquidated damages. They do not estimate the amount of damages that would flow from the PAC's breach of contract. This unenforceable penalty piece is something we have talked a lot about here with the ACC. That's what the FSU is using against the ACC on their penalties, saying these are unenforceable. They're not tied to actual losses. Same type of issue that we have here that the PAC is taking to the Mountain West, saying they're just not enforceable. A few other notes here. They state, the PAC states, that the poaching penalty is one-sided and that no similar provision or penalty is detailed if the Mountain West were to recruit a PAC school. I find it interesting they would put that in here because certainly if the PAC wanted to add that, they could have requested that they put that provision in here. So it's kind of odd to me that they would point that out, but they did point that out. So let's get to the Navarez letter here to the PAC. Amy Parsons, who is the Colorado State president, called and advised that she was calling on behalf and authorized to speak on behalf of Colorado State, Boise State, San Diego State, and Fresno State. She talked directly to Commissioner Navarez. She said that these four schools are withdrawing from the Mountain West and had accepted an invitation to join the PAC. On that same day, the four schools announced their decision to withdraw from the Mountain West Conference in separate press releases, and the PAC also issued a press release announcing that its board admitted the four schools. Gould's letter back to the Mountain West responded with, the Mountain West imposed improper penalties over the PAC's obligation at the time when the PAC was desperate to schedule football games for its two remaining members and had very little leverage to reject this clear restraint on competition. Interesting. Very interesting there. So let me go into a couple quick opinions of mine, a couple things I just want to kind of put out there, and then I'm going to go into David McKenzie's analysis, which has been on X. I know I shared it through tweets and whatnot. Again, if you want to follow me, it's at TBM_JY. I've been doing a lot on the last 3-4 weeks, last couple weeks, and certainly the last couple days, reposting things, making sure people have as much quality information as they get. For me, Ross Dellinger and Amanda, I'm forgetting her last name, are really the only two sources you can trust. And I do also trust here David McKenzie, who we used on the ACC lawsuit. So I'm going to get to him here in a minute. Two things I want to point out here. Here there are requirements for terminating membership in the Mountain West. So the bylaws have requirements for termination. At this point, it's somewhat irrelevant because we know they're not going to dissolve, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. We know 7 MOUs have been signed, so there's no dissolution clause here. I still would like to know if a true termination was done through these 4 schools, now 5 schools, to the Mountain West. This verbal acknowledgement that President Parsons had done does not qualify per the bylaws. The bylaws say it must be written, and there must be $5,000 accompanied with that written letter saying that they're leaving. I have not seen anything saying that has happened. Again, it's just verbal right now. Of course, the Mountain West could say, hey, they verbalized it. That's a formality. We saw how that happened in the PAC lawsuit a year ago with the 10 schools that were leaving. So I don't want to go down that path. I'm still interested to know if those 5 schools are at all true voting members right now. Because if they're not, if they've turned in the resignation or termination, there's an interim period which is also detailed in the bylaws of the Mountain West. So it's all in there. We just need to know if this actually happened. Again, not a big deal with this lawsuit, not a big deal with the membership. A big deal for me because I like to keep on top of this stuff. The other thing I want to say is, here they're saying the PAC had little leverage. That is true. Absolutely, that is true. They were on their last leg. For those that have followed us for a while, they know we followed that. And they did have very little leverage. But they didn't have to sign this agreement. They didn't have to. They didn't have a lot of leverage, but they didn't have to sign it. This kind of comes from the basis, their side of things comes from the basis that the PAC had to remain a conference. In reality, it didn't. And I'm speaking to Mountain West people. I know we have a lot of PAC fans as well, but the PAC did not have to remain. It could have dissolved, right? So they're coming at this lawsuit saying the PAC had to remain and we had no leverage. Well, no, you didn't have much leverage, but the PAC didn't have to remain. Okay, that's the unfortunate hard truth of this. So, we're going to be starting the Mountain West and the PAC are going to be starting at very different levels here in terms of these lawsuits. So let's get to David McKenzie's analysis here. He says the PAC's complaint is not just weak, but it's hypocritical. He says it severely undermines its legal arguments and standings, specifically regarding the antitrust issues. He summarizes this with saying the PAC's attempt to use antitrust law to escape a contractual obligation while simultaneously benefiting from the anti-competitive conference structure is legally flawed. So what they're saying the Mountain West is doing is exactly what every conference is doing in terms of this anti-competitive nature. He then went on to say that a complete dismissal could actually be warranted due to the flawed use of the Federal Rule of Procedure 12b-6. He concluded that the entire case is likely to be dismissed, leaving no federal forum for this litigation. Now, I will say he also has said this unlawful penalty count could have some legs. Again, liquidated damages, does it actually amount to a loss for the Mountain West? Again, we see that in the ACC. He says there could be some merit there, but if this case gets dismissed, he's saying the whole thing could get dismissed because it's structured around the Federal Rule of Procedure 12b-6. Let's get to the members. As we know, UNLV, Air Force, and the other 5 members have now signed on. They're staying with it, the conference. They have 7 members, even Hawaii now. Just before I did this, they have now signed on. So they have 6 full members, 1 part-time football-only member. They do need to add 2 members to be a NCAA conference moving forward. They do have that 2 years in order to do that, just like the PAC had. But 6 members here right now, full-time members, we will need to add 2 in order to get there. Dissolution, as I said yesterday, is completely off the table. I would point anyone that wants to hear what I had to say to the 365 Sports show that I was on yesterday. I'm about the hour and 53-minute mark. And I say there both UNLV is likely to stay in the Mountain West, and I also say dissolution is very unlikely. Well, about 5 hours after I said that, we learned that all 7 members, including UNLV, are staying in the Mountain West. And of course, that means there is no dissolution. So there's that. Real quick, I want to talk about additions. Again, for those that have heard me, this is repetitive for you, but I love them going, at least asking Texas State. You got to go at least ask. I don't know if they're interested, and I don't know if the Mountain West can get them, but you need to go look at Texas State. I also like New Mexico State, UTEP. I like Sac State coming from FCS, and some others that, of course, you need to throw out there, but those would be my top 5, would be the Montanas, would be the Dakotas, and would be Tarleton State, which is also in Texas. So those are the ads that I have on my list. I predict this conference is going to be at least 9 full-time members by 2026. So JY is saying at least 9 full-time members by 2026. I want to throw up a couple tweets that I did. First one here is just my list of priorities. I said we need to keep at least 6 to 8 schools. Check, we've done that. Obviously, that means no dissolution. Check, we've done that. I've said on past shows here and also on that 365 Sports that I think there needs to be a countersuit here by the Mountain West. That's what you see in this realignment game, and I think there's one coming, so that's next on my list. Then, of course, we're looking to add 2 to 4 full-time members, and then, of course, we're going to market. There's been some rumors that we're already to market. I'm not sure exactly how you can do that, unless that just means you're working with your existing partners, which I have said in the past, they should be calling their existing partners and helping define what the ad's priority should be. So I'm guessing that's what they're doing. It's not truly going to market. It's using their partners to try and help build the best market media value they can. So when they do go to market, they're getting the best bang for the buck. Another one here that was kind of fun, I put Pete, meet Pete, who can meet Pete. And of course, that is Wyoming. That is New Mexico State, and that is UTEP. We all got to get to the happy hour together. I'm buying here at 5:30 with the 3 Petes. Get to know each other again and get in the same conference. And of course, I'll throw up here real quick the 365 episode that I was on. You can find that on my X handle as well. Again, it's at TBM_JY. I am all over this on X, at least as much as I can be right now. I do have a full-time day job, but I am trying to follow us as closely as possible. So that's all I got for you guys tonight. The Mountain West lives on. In Gloria we trust, and we will ascend together at the peak. With that, hey, we thank you guys for watching. We thank you for all the love you've given to us on this channel. Make sure you give this one a like and subscribe if you like our content. I am, again, all over this Mountain West stuff, and we follow the PAC closely as well. So with that, we thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.